Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Hey, what's up, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get into, so let's just jump into it. First one comes from Tommy, who says, was the Kenny Pickett trade partly to get help, get an operable backup while saving cap space? How much would it save versus getting someone like Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston? So Kenny Pickett is about $2.3 million for this year. He's on a cost-controlled rookie deal. I think also another thing that factors into Kenny Pickett, his age and his former draft status. So he's a former first-round pick. He's 28, 27, somewhere around that age, not super young. And you might think that there's a little bit more you could squeeze out of him than what he has. I am not a believer in that, but there might be a belief of that in Berea. So I think that's the value proposition for Kenny Pickett and the Cleveland Browns. That being said, how much would it save versus someone like Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston? Joe Flacco last year signed for like an $8 to $10 million deal with incentives. Jameis Winston signed for a similar deal, $8 to $10 million deal with incentives. So if they get those same deals, then it's significant cap savings, about $4 or $5 million. If you just take the incentives out, because you have to assume if you sign one of them and they play, they're going to hit some of those incentives. It'd be about that price. So yeah, it's a little bit cheaper than going after Joe Flacco or Jameis. He's younger. There's the hope that, he can be a long-term backup. And, as far as Kenny Pickett is concerned, if we take him out the context of being a first-round pick and being a starting quarterback in the NFL, I do think Kenny Pickett is fine as a backup for a lot of teams. I just think, a lot of the conversation we've had about Kenny has been, can he be a starter? It's a different conversation now. Zoink says, hey, Q, love the channel. Been a fan for a while. Read reports that Russell Wilson's meeting with the Browns included Myles Garrett and Deshaun Watson. Does this mean anything that Deshaun is involved in trying to recruit a new quarterback to Cleveland? I don't think Deshaun Watson was really involved with the meeting. To be honest with you, Deshaun's just there because he's rehabbing, right? I don't think the Browns have long-term plans with Deshaun Watson. We'll see, but I think the writing's been on the wall with Deshaun, right? His contract is coming closer and closer to an end. His level of play wasn't good. They're taking the offense away from things that he does. I think it's more of a coincidence that Myles and Deshaun were there. But if you're Russell Wilson's people, right, and you're trying to drive up the market on Russ, you're trying to put pressure on the New York Giants, you're going to want to make it seem like Cleveland is super serious. And the way you can make it seem like Cleveland is super serious is saying, hey, man, Myles and Deshaun were trying to recruit Russ to Cleveland. I think that's spin more than anything, though. I don't think it's like legit. I wouldn't read too much into it. Bryce says, given the consistent struggles with the development of drafted wide receivers and the inefficiency of the passing attack and the inability of our wide receivers to get open over the past 5 years, I would heavily disagree with that. You've had 3 wide receivers hit career highs back-to-back-to-back years, right? Amari Cooper, 2 years, and then Jerry Jeudy. He's certainly shown the ability to get open. Hell, Cedric Tillman, before the concussion, was showing the ability to get open. Odell Beckham, while he was here, was getting open. That was the big problems, that Odell Beckham was open. You had Jarvis Landry, while he was here, have some pretty impressive years. David Njoku, while he was here, not while he was here, but a year ago, had a pretty impressive season as well. So I think your diagnosis of what's going on with the wide receiver room is a little bit off. I'm still trying to understand why Chad O'Shea has remained a wide receiver coach. He wasn't plays, especially if every other offensive coach has seen a turnover. Well, it's because if you look at it and you leave out things like you left out, yeah, it's going to be hard to understand why Chad O'Shea is the wide receiving coach. Because if you just label it like that in the most uncharitable way for Chad O'Shea, then yeah, you can make Chad O'Shea seem bad at his job. But the truth is that Chad O'Shea took 2 reclamation projects in Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and got the most out of them, right? Career highs all 3 years with those 3 guys. And the wide receivers he's been handed in the draft have been 3rd and 4th and 5th round picks. That's not really like unexpected that, you take a swing on a 3rd round pick at wide receiver. It doesn't really work out. Teams do that all the time. If the Browns had drafted like 2 first-round wide receivers over this period and it didn't work out, then maybe you would have a point here. But until the Browns make a more of an investment in wide receivers in the draft, I think it's hard to say that Chad O'Shea is the reason that they're not developing when guys have been traded to Cleveland, have developed and gotten better. Jerry Jeudy, a prime example of that. I think they evaluate Chad O'Shea based on the whole of what he's done. And as much as people have a problem with Chad O'Shea, I think a lot of people ignore that wide receivers have come here and had a lot of success in Cleveland. And Chad O'Shea is a part of that. So, yeah, I think a lot of people have gotten really riled up about Chad O'Shea without really understanding or really being charitable to what his job is. Alex says, hey, Q, love the video. Do you see Milroe as Richardson 2.0, or do you see him as more of a Taysom Hill reboot? What do you see as his ceiling? I don't see him as either of those things. I don't really think of him as like a Taysom Hill type guy. I don't really see him as an Anthony Richardson guy. I look at Jaylen Milroe, I see Tyrod Taylor, like a bigger, stronger Tyrod Taylor. I think that's what his ceiling could be. But I do think it's going to take the duration of his rookie deal to get to that point as a quarterback. Like, this is a guy that you want to sit the bench for not 1 year, but probably 2 years, right, to work on his mechanics, kind of like Jordan Love. But yeah, that's where I see him. I think, you want to be the second team that gets their hands on him, especially if he's taken outside the first round. I think you want to be the second team. If he goes anywhere later than like the 3rd or 4th, then yeah, you definitely want to be the second team, because I think that's when it's going to click for Jaylen. But that first team that gets him, I'm worried that you're going to invest 3-4 years in developing him, and then he's going to hit free agency, which is my concern with him. But I don't think he's going to be ready anytime soon. As far as his development as a passer, maybe he's one of those guys who could develop while they're out there. You never know. But yeah, I see Jaylen Milroe closer to like the career arc that Tyrod had. Kalia says, do you see Dwand as getting better at right or left tackle, and should we draft accordingly? If he's right, we should get Connerly and work with him to phase out Conklin this year. If he is a long-term left tackle solution, then let's put him on his best side. I think a lot of my evaluation and how I feel about Dwand's going to be decided this summer, like how he comes in weight-wise. I think it's going to matter a ton to me. How he looks, if he does come in at a lighter weight, it's going to matter a ton to me. So I don't want to make any big declarations about what Dwand is or is not going to be to this team yet. I think I want to wait until we see what Dwand looks like, and we see, how much Dwand's going to be able to play this year, and what weight is Dwand going to come in at this year. I think that stuff matters, because if he comes in at a lighter weight, I do think he could be a lot more athletic than he is now. And if that's the case, then you might want him at left tackle. Anthony says, I'm curious, what do you think of the Jason Lloyd column that he wrote about Myles? There are some writers in this town who should not be trusted on certain subjects. When it comes to Myles Garrett, I don't trust Jason Lloyd. I find his reporting on Myles to be inaccurate and filled by some kind of like personal distaste of Myles Garrett. It's like trusting Skip Bayless on a report about LeBron James. Really consider the source. Some people do in the media do have bones to pick, and it's obvious to tell. And I think the Jason Lloyd and Myles Garrett, they don't like each other. There's clearly a bone to pick there, and there's clearly a problem between Jason Lloyd and Myles Garrett. And I don't really trust what Jason Lloyd has to say about Myles, so I don't really think anything of that column because I don't think it came from a genuine place from Jason Lloyd. I think he's on the subject of Myles Garrett. He can be full of shit. So that's the most diplomatic way I could put it there. If somebody else writes articles about Myles that are adjacent to that, then I think it's more of a conversation to have. But if it's only Jason Lloyd and nobody else is willing to confirm or jump on some of this stuff or portray it in the same way that Jason Lloyd's doing, I really just don't buy it. And I think that's the best way for me to put it. Well, Walea says, two-parter here, Q. Wallahi. Is that Wallahi? I think it's Wallahi. My bad, dog. Two-parter here. With the rumor of Aiyuk package being Newsome and a day 3 pick, how does this affect our cap post-trade? Also, if this package uses our 4th-round pick, do you think the need of getting a wide receiver coming off of mid-production with when healthy last season and a season-ending injury, how does that stack up with filling our need for the roster for mid-round quarterback, O-line, running back? I'm under a feeling that if we get a good running back that can catch out the backfield and shore up our line, this puts us in a better place to win next season, considering we have Judy and Njoku, hoping Tillman stays on his current trajectory to keep our passing game steady. Curious what your angle is on this nonetheless. Yeah, if the price for Brandon Aiyuk is his contract, a day 3 pick, and Greg Newsome, that is a deal that you absolutely cannot pass up because that's a fine deal for somebody who's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. Aiyuk, and I'm just going to put a mulligan on last year. It was a weird year for Aiyuk, right? Not happy to be in San Francisco. Not happy with the contract. Really didn't practice much, so I'll give him a clean swipe here. He's young enough to where the ACL injury doesn't really bother me as much. And even if it is something that bothers you, the contract is like number 2 wide receivers are now getting $30 million. So the contract doesn't hit till a couple of years anyway. And even when it does hit, $30 million for a wide receiver is probably going to be number 2 wide receiver money, as crazy as that sounds. So yeah, I like the deal if they do it. I'm not going to be upset again after Brandon Aiyuk because it's not really, you're not giving up much here. You're trading Greg Newsome in a day 3 pick for Brandon Aiyuk. I think they have to say yes to that, right? Like if you're the Browns. The question is, will the 49ers say yes to it? They got to decide what they want to do organizationally, though. Jay says, how should we feel about folks saying we shouldn't have extended Myles? Is it truly going to handicap us? Think about this. This is the question we're asking. No disrespect to you, Jay, right? Because I think the media has made us ask this question. But think about what we're really asking here. Should the Browns have extended the best player on their roster? Yes. Yes. They should have extended the best player on their roster. Is it going to handicap us? No. I mean, the Browns are still able to do all of this stuff with the Deshaun Watson deal. And if there was any deal in history that could handicap this team, it would be the Deshaun Watson deal. That has not handicapped us to the point to where we can't keep Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's contract is nowhere near as tied up as Deshaun's contract. And it's for Myles Garrett, right? Myles Garrett is going to be good. More than likely. So, no, I don't think it matters. He's one of those players that is so good, you don't care how much they get paid. Did you ever stop and ask yourself how much Aaron Donald was getting paid? I never did. I never cared about that. What about J.J. Watt? Do you know how much J.J. Watt was getting paid in his prime? Nobody cares. It doesn't even matter. So Myles is in that category of player where, like, I just don't care how much he gets paid. I'd rather have that guy on my team because he's a difference maker. Now, is he going to be alone enough to win a championship with? No. But if you're going to win a championship in any time soon, you're probably going to have Myles Garrett on the roster, right? Like, I think that matters. And there's been a lot of devaluing of what Myles does over these last couple of months, but let's be real, Myles matters. Right? Myles Garrett matters a ton. I Drop Brown says, can we just pass on these Colorado players? Mary Kay said to take a swing on the QB. I say don't. They played unranked teams in the Big 12. When they finally played a ranked opponent, number 17 BYU ate them up. Well, I think Baylor was ranked when they played them, to be fair to Colorado. I do think they had a couple of, at the time, ranked wins. The only reason they're as hyped as they are is because Deion is putting in his OT. Honestly, NIL makes me rethink everything about the draft. Is a kid that made millions, it's going to be hung. Okay, I'm good on that. I'm absolutely good on that. I don't care. You're going to be hungry to succeed in the NFL because you're an athlete with ambitions to be good at the NFL. The money part of it is just a bonus to it. But, football players want to be good at football. That's the motivation, right? The money helps a lot, but the motivation to be good at football is about playing football. And I've seen nothing at Colorado that makes me suggest that these guys aren't motivated to play football. This is what I mean by the Deion stuff gets in the way of it, right? Because we wouldn't be trying to pass on prospects from an entire college because how we feel about a coach for any other team other than Colorado. Deion's done a good job there, right? Colorado was a nothing program before he got, well, not a nothing program, but wasn't doing much before he got there. He takes the job and, they were in the Big 12 title conversation, which they have never been when they were in the Pac-12. So you got to give them credit for that. Has Colorado played well against ranked teams? No, they haven't. They're not there yet as a program. It takes a while to be really good against elite competition. But did some of the players on Colorado, like Travis Hunter, show up against the bigger teams? Yes, right. Shedeur Sanders is a bigger question mark. That's one of the big question marks I have on him. But passing on the entire college because you don't like their head coach, I think it's kind of crazy to me. So I disagree with all of that, So we'll see what happens. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better day. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. My bad, y'all. But peace.